What if I told you that most people are not exhausted because they're working too hard, but because their energy is leaking away like water through a broken jar? Think about it. You wake up, and before your feet even touch the floor, your phone demands your attention. You scroll through endless comparisons. You argue with strangers online. You give your best energy to gossip, complaints, and relationships that don't feed your soul. By the end of the day, you're not drained because life was too heavy, but because your power was wasted on the wrong things. The Stoics understood this truth thousands of years ago. They knew that strength wasn't about how much you could carry, how much you could fight, or how much you could achieve in a single day. True strength was about discipline, directing your energy like a warrior directs his sword. They taught that if you can master your emotions, your thoughts, and your reactions, then you already hold more power than kings or armies. So let me ask you, where is your energy going? Who or what is feeding on it every single day? Because the answer to that question determines everything about your future, your peace, your focus, your purpose. A lion does not chase every animal it sees. It chooses, it waits, it saves its strength for what truly matters. But so many of us are giving lion energy to mosquitoes, fighting battles that are beneath us, pouring ourselves into distractions that leave us empty. I've been there too. I remember a season of my life when I said yes to every invitation, every project, every request, thinking it was kindness. In reality, it was self-betrayal. I was exhausted, not because I lacked time, but because I lacked boundaries. And when I discovered Stoicism, I realized something liberating. Energy is more valuable than time. You can lose a day and recover. But if you consistently give your energy to the wrong people, the wrong thoughts, or the wrong habits, you risk losing the very purpose of your life. That's why this video is not just about ideas, it's about survival. We live in a world that thrives on stealing your attention. Social media companies design algorithms to trap your focus. Toxic people disguise manipulation as love. Even your own mind whispers doubts that drain you more than any external enemy could. And yet, the Stoics gave us weapons, mental weapons, that can protect us. Silence, boundaries, discipline, perspective. These are not soft skills, they are shields and swords in a noisy, chaotic world. In the next few minutes, we're going to walk through 9 Stoic rules. Rules that are not abstract philosophy, but practical steps you can apply today. Rules that will help you cut off energy vampires, control what enters your mind, pause before reacting, and guard your mornings like a soldier guards his post. Rules that will remind you that saying no is not selfish, that living simply is powerful, and that you don't owe explanations to anyone who refuses to understand your journey. So here's my invitation. Listen not with distraction, but with intention. As Marcus Aurelius once wrote, the tranquility that comes when you stop caring what they say or think or do, only what you do. That is your challenge and your promise. If you're tired of living drained, if you're ready to reclaim your focus and your strength, then stay with me, because these 9 rules are not just lessons. They are the path to mastering your energy, and when you master your energy, you master your life. Rule 1, master the pause before reacting. There is a small moment in every conflict, a fraction of a second that can either protect your peace or destroy it. The Stoics called this the sacred pause, the space between what happens to you and how you choose to respond. Epictetus once said, It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. Think about how many times we give away our energy, not because of the event itself, but because of the way we explode, panic, or overreact. Let me give you an example. John was in the middle of a team meeting when a colleague abruptly cut him off. The old John would have snapped back, raised his voice, and turned the entire room into a battlefield. But this time, something different happened. He paused, just a few seconds. He inhaled deeply, allowed the sting of the interruption to pass through him, and then spoke calmly. The result? Not only did he keep the respect of the room, but he also walked away with his dignity intact. That pause became his power. And the truth is, this is not just about meetings or small conflicts. Every single day, life throws arrows at us. Someone cuts us off in traffic, a friend ignores our message, a stranger leaves a cruel comment online. The event itself may last only seconds, but the emotional reaction can cost us hours, sometimes days of mental peace. It's like handing out $100 bills of energy to anyone who provokes us. Would you give your money to random people yelling in the street? Of course not. Then why do we give our mental currency away so easily? The Stoics trained themselves to master this gap, this pause, because they understood that the pause is where freedom lives. When you pause, you are no longer a slave to impulse. You're not dragged around by every insult, every inconvenience, every surge of anger. Instead, you become the observer, the one in control, the one who chooses a response instead of surrendering to a reaction. I've learned this lesson the hard way. I used to be quick-tempered, answering every rude remark with sharp words of my own. It always left me drained, embarrassed, and further from the person I wanted to be. But the first time I chose silence over anger, I felt something new, strength. Not the loud strength of shouting, but the silent strength of knowing I had not been moved by someone else's chaos. That silence was heavier than any words I could have spoken. So how do we practice this in real life? Start small. The next time someone disrespects you, don't rush to defend yourself. Pause. Breathe. Ask yourself, does this opinion change my truth? When a situation feels urgent, ask, will this matter in 5 days, 5 weeks, or 5 years? Most of the time, the answer is no. That pause buys you clarity, and clarity leads to wise action. Remember, the modern world trains us to react fast, to click fast, type fast, get angry fast. But the Stoics teach us to slow down, because the slower you are to react, the stronger your response becomes. This is not numbness, it's discipline, it's strength, it's the art of guarding your peace. So the next time life presses your buttons, don't let the moment own you, own the moment. Let your pause be your power. Rule 2, control what you feed your mind. Your mind is like a garden. Every thought, every word, every image you allow in is a seed. Some seeds grow into strength, clarity, and peace. Others grow into weeds of doubt, fear, and restlessness. Marcus Aurelius once said, "The things you think about determine the quality of your mind." And that single truth may be one of the most important lessons the Stoics left us. Think about it. If a stranger followed you around whispering insults all day, "You're not good enough, you'll never make it, everyone else is better than you," you would call that abuse. You'd demand that person leave immediately. But what if I told you that many of us are doing that to ourselves every single day without realizing it? The shows we binge, the headlines we absorb, the people we follow online, they shape the voice inside our own heads. And that voice, over time, becomes the environment of our soul. Emily, a young professional I once knew, discovered this truth the hard way. Every morning she woke up to a flood of negative news, gossip on social media, and endless comparison with strangers. She couldn't understand why she felt anxious before she even left her apartment. It wasn't her job. It wasn't her family. It was the constant diet of mental junk food she was feeding her mind. One day she decided to change. She swapped the gossip channels for Stoic podcasts, replaced scrolling with journaling, and read one page of philosophy instead of diving into online drama. Within weeks, her inner world shifted. She felt calmer, stronger, more present, not because her life got easier, but because her mind got cleaner. I've had my own version of this story. There was a time I consumed hours of online noise every day, thinking it was harmless. But I realized that my focus was scattered, my patience was thin, and my mood was dictated by whatever headline or argument I had just seen. The moment I started curating my inputs, everything changed. The music I listened to, the people I surrounded myself with, the voices I allowed in. Suddenly, my thoughts slowed down, my anxiety decreased, and I had space to think for myself. This is the power of intentional input. If your body can't thrive on junk food, how can your mind thrive on junk thoughts? You cannot expect peace if all you consume is chaos. The Stoics knew this. They treated the mind like a fortress, guarding what entered because they understood that whatever you let in will eventually come out in your actions, your habits, and your destiny. So here's a challenge for you. Before you click on that next link, before you play that next video, before you follow another account, ask yourself, is this feeding my energy or draining it? Imagine your mind like a gym. Every piece of content is either building your strength or poisoning your system. Which one are you choosing today? It doesn't mean you need to be perfect. It means you need to be intentional. Replace gossip with growth. Replace comparison with contemplation. Replace endless scrolling with a few moments of silence. You might look strange to others for ignoring the latest drama, but the reward is priceless. Peace, focus, and power. Guard your mind like a fortress, because the quality of your life will always reflect the quality of your thoughts. And when you control what you feed your mind, you don't just protect your energy, you elevate your entire existence. Rule 3, be ruthless with your priorities. Most people are not exhausted because they are doing too much. They are exhausted because they are doing too many things that don't matter. Marcus Aurelius once said, if you don't have a consistent goal in life, you can't live it in a consistent way. That wisdom is as true today as it was 2,000 years ago. Without clear priorities, life becomes scattered. We say yes to everything, and in the end, we are left with nothing. Think of David, a man who was well-liked because he never said no. Invitations to parties, endless group chats, late-night favors, extra projects at work, he accepted them all. On the surface, he looked social, helpful, and busy, but underneath, he felt drained. His goals gathered dust. His health slipped away. His relationships with those who truly mattered, his family, were suffering. It wasn't until he began to set strict priorities that everything changed. He chose 3 things each day that truly mattered: his family, his health, and his personal project. He treated those 3 like sacred ground, guarding them like a soldier at his post. Within weeks, his energy began to return. Within months, his life felt aligned again. Here's the truth. Every yes you give is a no to something else. When you say yes to hours of meaningless scrolling, you are saying no to your focus. When you say yes to people who drain you, you are saying no to the people who love you. When you say yes to distractions, you are saying no to your purpose. The problem isn't time. The problem is priorities. I've lived this lesson myself. There was a season of my life where my calendar was filled, but my soul was empty. I thought being busy meant I was being productive. But busyness is not the same as progress. When I learned to choose just a few non-negotiables each day, things that aligned with my values and my vision, I discovered the freedom that comes with clarity. I didn't need more hours. I needed more focus. So how do you start? Begin tonight. Write down 3 things you will give your best energy to tomorrow. Not 10, not 20, just 3. When the day begins, protect them as if your peace depends on them, because it does. Everything else is noise, background activity that may distract you but does not define you. If you complete those 3, your day is a victory. If you let them slide, your day has been stolen by things that never truly mattered. The Stoics believed in building a life action by action, aligning each choice with purpose. They didn't chase every opportunity or bow to every demand. They lived with intention. And we can do the same. You are not here to be a leaf blown by the wind. You are here to be rooted, steady, and aligned. So I ask you, what are your 3 priorities today? Do they reflect who you want to become, or are they just distractions dressed as duties? Be ruthless with this choice, because your energy is sacred. When you spend it on what truly matters, you stop being busy and start being effective. Protect your time. Protect your focus. Protect your life. Because when your priorities are clear, your path becomes unstoppable. Rule 4. Cut off energy vampires. There are people in your life who lift you up, and there are people who quietly drain the very life out of you. The Stoics had a clear understanding of this reality. Marcus Aurelius once said, "When someone acts poorly, they act that way to themselves. Don't take it personally." But too often we do take it personally. We allow people who complain, manipulate, and belittle us to have a seat at our table, and then we wonder why we feel exhausted at the end of every day. Think of Lisa. For years, she carried the weight of a friendship that no longer gave her life. Her old friend constantly complained, played the victim, and made subtle comments that cut her down. Every time they spoke, Lisa left the conversation feeling smaller, not stronger. She told herself, "But we've known each other for so long. I can't just walk away." That is the trap many of us fall into, confusing history with loyalty. One day, Lisa decided something had to change. She didn't make a dramatic announcement. She didn't start a fight. She simply created space, choosing her peace over guilt. And in that choice, she found freedom. We call them energy vampires, and they don't always look like villains. Sometimes they are old friends, coworkers, or even family members. They may not scream or slam doors. Instead, they drain you in quiet ways. Through endless complaints, guilt trips, subtle manipulation, or constant negativity. And here's the truth. No matter how disciplined you are, if you keep energy vampires close, they will steal your strength. It's not a question of if, but when. I've faced this myself. There was a period when I tolerated people who thrived on drama, thinking I could rise above it. I told myself I was being strong by enduring their behavior. But in reality, I wasn't practicing strength. I was practicing self-destruction. Strength is not found in tolerating dysfunction. Strength is found in walking away from it. Seneca gave us wise advice. Associate with people who are likely to improve you. Welcome those whom you yourself can improve. If the people around you are not making you calmer, stronger, or more focused, then they are distractions, not allies. Every person you let into your life is either fuel or poison. You have to decide which they are, and you have to choose accordingly. Cutting someone off doesn't mean you hate them. It doesn't mean you wish them harm. It simply means you value your peace more than their chaos. It means you refuse to sacrifice your future for the sake of their comfort. You don't need to justify your silence. You don't need to announce your distance. You don't even need to explain yourself. Detach calmly and let nature do the rest. Ask yourself, who in your life leaves you drained after every interaction? Who makes you feel smaller, not bigger? And why are you still letting them hold the keys to your peace? The Stoics would remind us, energy is not infinite. Protect it like you would protect your health, your family, or your purpose. So cut off the energy vampires. Protect your circle like sacred ground. Because the moment you stop giving your best energy to those who waste it, you begin building a life filled with strength, clarity, and peace. Rule 5, say no without apology. There is a hidden reason so many people feel overwhelmed. It's not because they don't have enough time, but because they've been trained to feel guilty for saying no. They bend, they agree, they stretch themselves thin, not out of love, but out of fear. Epictetus once said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." And one of the greatest acts of self-mastery is learning to say no without apology. Think of Mark. He was the dependable one at work, the person everyone turned to when they needed help on late projects or last-minute favors. And because he wanted to be seen as kind, he always said yes, even when it meant sacrificing time with his wife and children, even when it meant pushing aside his health and his peace. But one day Mark decided to draw a line. When a colleague asked him to stay late again, he calmly replied, "No, I need this evening for my family." He didn't over-explain, he didn't apologize, he simply stood by his choice. And something surprising happened. The right people respected him more. They saw his boundaries as strength, not weakness. How many times have you said yes when every part of you wanted to say no? How many times have you accepted obligations that left you resentful, exhausted, and further away from the life you actually want? Every time you betray yourself to please others, you weaken your spirit. You teach the world that your time and your energy are for sale. I've made this mistake too. For years, I equated being agreeable with being good. I thought kindness meant compliance, even when it cost me dearly. But the truth is, kindness without boundaries is self-destruction. I learned that saying no doesn't make you cold, it makes you clear. And clarity is one of the highest forms of respect, both for yourself and for others. The Stoics understood this deeply. They were not people pleasers. They were men and women of principle, willing to be misunderstood, even ridiculed, in order to live in alignment with their values. Epictetus reminded us, if you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid. Why? Because standing in your truth will confuse people who benefit from your silence. But that is the cost of freedom. So how do you begin? Start small. The next time someone asks for your time or your energy, pause and ask yourself, does this serve my purpose or does it steal from it? If it steals, say no. You don't need excuses. You don't need to soften it with endless apologies. A simple, respectful no is enough. And when you stand firm, you'll notice two things. The people who truly respect you will adapt, and the people who only valued your compliance will drift away. While the outcomes are blessings, remember, every yes is a no to something else. When you say yes to everything, you say no to your own peace, your own goals, your own life. But when you learn to say no with quiet confidence, you reclaim your dignity. You show the world that your time, your energy, and your soul are not available to be drained. So let me ask you, what part of your life is begging for a no? And when will you finally give it? Rule 6, live simply, avoid excess. We live in a world that tells us more is always better. More clothes, more gadgets, more cars, more likes, more attention. But the Stoics would challenge this idea completely. Epictetus once said, "Wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants." True abundance is not found in how much you own, but in how little you actually need. Think about Michael. For years, he worked long hours in a demanding job, and every time he felt stressed, he bought something new. A watch, another pair of shoes, the latest phone. His apartment was full, but his heart was empty. One day he realized that all the things surrounding him weren't giving him peace. They were giving him pressure. Bills piled up, clutter filled his space, and the chase for more never ended. So Michael made a decision. He sold what he didn't need, stopped chasing every new trend, and chose to live with less. To his surprise, he didn't feel deprived. He felt lighter. The space he created wasn't just in his home, but in his mind. Excess isn't just about possessions. It's about distractions. It's about the endless craving for approval, the need to keep up with every trend, the compulsion to say yes to every demand. Every unnecessary desire is a chain that keeps you from moving freely. The Stoics knew that simplicity wasn't about poverty. It was about freedom, because the less you need, the less power the world has over you. I've experienced this myself. There was a time when I measured my worth by how much I could accumulate. I thought a bigger house, a better car, and the latest technology would finally prove that I was successful. But no matter how much I had, the feeling never lasted. The moment I got what I wanted something else. It was an endless hunger. It wasn't until I started letting go, donating what I didn't use, saying no to unnecessary purchases, and focusing on experiences rather than things, that I began to feel free, and that freedom was priceless. So let me ask you, what are you holding on to that you don't need? What is cluttering your home, your calendar, or your mind? Is it possessions you never use, obligations you don't care about, or desires that only leave you restless? Living simply doesn't mean living small. It means making room for what truly matters. When you own less, you have more time for relationships, for growth, for health, and for purpose. When you stop chasing what doesn't matter, you gain the energy to pursue what does. Simplicity is not about sacrifice, it's about clarity. The Stoics understood that life is short and time is precious. They would remind us that chasing excess is a trap, but embracing simplicity is power. Because when you no longer need everything, you finally have enough. So here's the challenge. Choose one thing today to let go of. Maybe it's an item collecting dust. Maybe it's an obligation that drains you. Maybe it's a desire that no longer serves you. Release it. Create space. Because the less clutter you carry, the more peace you will find. Wealth is not measured by what fills your shelves, but by what fills your soul. Live simply, want less, And in that simplicity, discover the freedom the world can never take from you. Rule 7. Stop explaining yourself to everyone. One of the greatest drains on your energy is the constant need to explain yourself. Why you didn't go to the party, why you cut off a toxic relationship, why you chose discipline over distraction. But here's the truth. You don't owe explanations to everyone, especially to those committed to misunderstanding you. Marcus Aurelius captured this perfectly when he said, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one." Think of Sarah. She chose a life of discipline. She started saying no to late nights out, gossip circles, and time-wasting habits. Instead, she poured her energy into her work, her health, and her peace of mind. And of course, people ask questions. Why don't you come out anymore? Why are you so quiet? Why are you always focused? At first, Sarah felt the urge to defend herself, to explain her choices. But then she realized something powerful. Her life would speak louder than any explanation. So she stopped justifying. She let her results, her calm, and her progress do the talking. The Stoics believed in silent strength. They understood that dignity is not in convincing others of your worth, but in living it. Every time you stop to explain yourself, you water weeds. You waste your energy trying to prove to others what you already know in your heart. And the people who truly care for you won't demand endless explanations. They will respect your choices without needing a presentation. I've had to learn this lesson too. I used to feel uncomfortable when people questioned my decisions. If I chose to stay home and read instead of going out, I'd explain. If I chose to focus on a project rather than accept an invitation, I'd justify. It was exhausting. Then one day I asked myself, why am I spending more energy defending my choices than actually living them? That question changed everything. The world will always have opinions. They will gossip, misunderstand, and sometimes mock. But none of it can touch you if you stop giving it your energy. Remember the words of Marcus Aurelius, "Be like the rock that the waves keep crashing over. It stands unmoved and the raging of the sea falls still around it." You are that rock. You do not need to explain why you are strong. You do not need to explain why you choose peace. You do not need to explain why you walk away from drama. Your presence, your calm, and your consistency will say more than words ever could. So here's the challenge. The next time someone questions your boundaries, resist the urge to explain. The next time someone mocks your discipline, let your silence answer. The next time someone misunderstands your journey, remember it's not their journey to understand. Your task is not to be understood. Your task is to live with clarity, courage, and conviction. Ask yourself, how much energy have I wasted trying to be understood by people who don't truly matter? And how much stronger would I be if I redirected that energy into living my truth instead of explaining it? When you stop explaining yourself, you reclaim massive amounts of strength. You stop performing for approval and start living with purpose. Let them wonder. Let them talk. While they speak, you act. That is Stoicism in motion. Rule 8. Guard your morning like a soldier guards his post. The first hour of your day is the most valuable. It sets the tone for everything that follows. Yet most people give it away to chaos before they've even taken their first breath of fresh air. They wake up and immediately check their phone, flooding their mind with notifications, emails, messages, and headlines. In less than 60 seconds, their nervous system goes from rest to stress. And without realizing it, they've surrendered the strongest part of their day. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, When you arise in the morning, think of what a precious privilege it is to be alive, to breathe, to think, to enjoy, to love. The Stoics understood that mornings are sacred. They are not meant to be rushed or wasted, but to be protected and prepared for like a soldier guarding his post. Because if you lose your morning, you've already lost the battle for the day. Think of Tom. For years, he woke up and reached for his phone the second his alarm went off. He would scroll through emails, skim through the news, and dive into social media before even getting out of bed. By the time he left for work, he was already exhausted, anxious, and behind. Then he decided to make a change. He committed to 30 minutes of silence each morning. No phone, no screens. Instead, he spent 15 minutes journaling, 5 minutes in meditation, and a short walk around his neighborhood. The result was life-changing. His mind felt clearer, his focus sharper, and the calm he built in the morning carried through his entire day. I've lived this lesson too. There was a time when my mornings belonged to everyone else. Clients, co-workers, strangers online. My peace was stolen before I even had a chance to claim it. But the moment I decided to guard my mornings, everything shifted. I realized that how I began my day determined whether I led it with discipline or stumbled through it in reaction. So let me ask you, what's the first thing you give your attention to each morning? Is it your own breath, your own priorities, your own gratitude? Or is it the noise of a world that doesn't care about your peace? The Stoics would remind us, the external world will always be loud. That's why your mornings must belong to you. Here's a simple practice. Keep your phone out of reach when you sleep. When you wake up, sit quietly for a moment and breathe deeply. Write down 3 intentions for the day. Just 3. Move your body even if it's only a short stretch. And read or reflect on a single thought that will guide you. These aren't complicated rituals. They're reminders that your life is yours to direct, not the world's to hijack. Because mornings are not just about productivity, they are about presence. They are where you decide who you will be before the world tells you who you should be. Protect them fiercely. Guard them like a soldier at his post. If you win the morning, you win the day. And when you win enough days, you begin to win your life. Rule 9. Accept adversity as part of life. Adversity is not the enemy. It is the teacher. It is the fire that forges strength, the storm that shapes resilience, the obstacle that transforms us into something greater. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." The Stoics believe that hardship is not a detour from life, it is life itself, and how you choose to meet it determines everything. Take Jennifer, for example. She poured her heart and soul into her first startup. She sacrificed sleep, invested her savings, and built a team she believed in. But when the business failed, she felt crushed. Friends whispered, some even mocked. For a moment, she thought her journey was over. But then she remembered, failure isn't the end, it's feedback. She chose to see her first company not as a grave, but as a classroom. She studied the mistakes, learned from the setbacks, and used that knowledge to build her second company. This time stronger, wiser, and more sustainable. Today, she doesn't hide her failure. She honors it because it was the foundation of her success. I've faced this lesson too. There were seasons in my life where nothing seemed to go my way. Plans collapsed, doors closed, people left. At the time, I thought life was breaking me, but looking back, I see that life was shaping me. The very obstacles that once brought me to my knees became the stepping stones to a stronger version of myself. Adversity forced me to grow in ways comfort never could. So let me ask you, what challenge are you facing right now? Is it a career setback, a broken relationship, a financial struggle, or maybe a health battle? Whatever it is, remember this: your hardship is not meaningless. It carries within it the seed of growth. The question is not, why me? The question is, how can this shape me? The Stoics trained themselves to embrace difficulty, not avoid it. They understood that every obstacle carries a hidden gift. Rejection builds resilience. Loss teaches gratitude. Struggle sharpens discipline. Pain deepens compassion. When you stop fighting adversity and start using it, you gain a power that cannot be taken away. I often think of it like weight training. The resistance you push against is the very thing that builds your muscle. If the bar is light, you don't grow. It's the heavy weight, the struggle, that transforms you. Life works the same way. Every obstacle is resistance, and every time you choose to push through, you become stronger. So here's the challenge. The next time you hit a wall, don't say this is the end. Say this is the way. Look at the obstacle and ask yourself, what is life teaching me here? How can I use this setback as a step forward? Remember, strength is not built in comfort. Growth is not born in ease. The Stoics knew this, and they lived it. You cannot control whether adversity comes, but you can control how you meet it. And when you meet it with courage, you transform the obstacle into the path. So don't run from adversity. Don't resent it. Accept it. Use it. Because what stands in your way today might just be the very thing that carries you to your greatest tomorrow. So here we are. 9 Stoic rules that remind us of one timeless truth. Energy is more important than time. Time can be wasted and recovered, but energy, once scattered, often takes pieces of your spirit with it. If you want to live with strength, clarity, and peace, you must learn to master not just your schedule, but the flow of your inner energy. Think about what we've walked through together. You cut off the energy vampires that drain you. You learn to control what enters your mind. You paused before reacting, gaining power in the silence. You became ruthless with your priorities, saying yes only to what matters most. You discovered the courage to say no without apology. You embraced the freedom of living simply, free from excess. You stopped explaining yourself to everyone, allowing your actions to speak louder than words. You guarded your mornings like a soldier at his post. And finally, you accepted adversity as part of life, turning every obstacle into a path forward. This is not just energy mastery. This is life mastery. Marcus Aurelius once said, "The tranquility that comes when you stop caring what they say or think or do, only what you do." That is the essence of Stoicism, not to control the world, but to control yourself, to stop chasing noise and start living with intention. I've seen what happens when you apply even one of these rules. Anxiety begins to fade, focus sharpens, relationships improve, and most importantly, you stop living at the mercy of circumstances and start living from a place of calm strength. Imagine what could happen if you applied all 9. So imagine the freedom of no longer being pulled in 100 directions. Imagine the peace of knowing that no matter what storms come, you remain steady, unshaken, and in command of your energy. So let me ask you, which rule will you begin with today? Will you say no where you used to say yes? Will you reclaim your mornings? Will you cut ties with the people who drain you? Or will you finally see adversity not as a punishment, but as a teacher? The choice is yours, and the choice begins now. Here's my challenge to you. Don't just listen, practice. Take one of these Stoic rules and live it out this week. Write it down, remind yourself daily, and watch how your life begins to shift. And when you do, share your journey. Because transformation is not just for you, it's a light for others as well. If this message spoke to you, don't keep it to yourself. Like this video, share it with someone who needs it, and subscribe so you don't miss the next piece of Stoic wisdom. And in the comments, I want you to affirm this truth. I master my energy. I master my life. Write it, own it, and live it. Because at the end of the day, your energy is your responsibility. Guard it with silence. Strengthen it with discipline. Direct it with clarity. And when you do, you will become someone the world cannot distract, disturb, or defeat.